Have you ever been, like, casually involved in a project, or maybe a community group, and you're just sort of helping out on the sidelines?
Oh, yeah. Like you're just a tourist.
Exactly, just a tourist, only to suddenly realize, with this, like, cold jolt of panic, that you are now the one holding the entire thing together.
It's the worst feeling.
Right. You look around for the adult in the room, and then you realize, it's you. You're the adult.
It is a terrifying transition, honestly.
Yeah.
You go from being that casual visitor to realizing you are the absolute load-bearing pillar of a situation.
Yeah.
Like the structural integrity of everything around you suddenly relies entirely on your decisions.
And that feeling, that sudden, just crushing realization of ultimate responsibility, that is the central nerve of today's deep dive.
It really is.
Because we are looking at a highly specific, totally fascinating set of source materials today. It's the session notes from the Dungeons & Dragons campaign.
Which is such a unique source for this kind of analysis.
It is. Specifically, the notes are titled Curse of Strahd, Monday Campaign, Session 7, Fallen Heroes, Rising Threats.
Mhm.
Now, whether you play tabletop games or not, our mission today is to explore the agonizing anatomy of leadership, and impossible choices.
Because the stakes feel incredibly real to the people making the choices.
Exactly. We are going to dissect the exact moment a group of passing visitors becomes completely responsible for a doomed town. And we're going to look at the real-life psychology of the players sweating over these decisions.
It is a phenomenal lens for looking at crisis management. Just to set the scene for you really quickly, the group, often called a party in these games, consists of characters named Fiad, Heliax, Gesh, and Cassius.
Right.
And there's this great little meta detail in the notes that a fifth player, Arlek, is absent due to real-life work commitments.
Which instantly grounds the whole thing.
Exactly. These are regular people sitting around a table, suddenly tasked with managing the village of Barovia, which is a town that is currently enduring scheduled nightly zombie sieges at its gates.
Yeah, and half the population has already fled.
Right.
The village is practically bleeding out. Okay, let's unpack this, because the ultimate theme of this session, the reality that every choice requires an impossible trade-off, it just hits them immediately.
Right out of the gate.
Yeah. We're picking up exactly where their last session left off, which is in the cellar of the town's ruined church. There's a local priest, Father Donavich, and his son, Doru.
And we should mention the horrific complication here is that Doru has been turned into a vampire.
Right. He's been locked in this hole, starving, and one of the players, Heliax, decides to intervene.
Yeah, Heliax is playing an orc cleric.
Mm-hmm.
So he's essentially a conduit for the moon goddess, Saloon.
Mm.
And in this dark, cursed realm where the sun barely even shines, Heliax attempts to channel a literal miracle. Like he tries to bridge the night to the morning and bring the light of a god into a locked-off, hopeless dimension.
And the crazy part is he actually succeeds.
It's wild.
It's this incredible moment of intervention. The vampire curse on the son, Doru, is broken. He is basically 90% human again.
Yeah.
But reading through the mechanics of this scene, I mean, I don't know if I can even call this a victory.
No, not at all.
Because Father Donavich, the old priest, he voluntarily sacrifices his own life to fuel this miracle. His last words to his son are, "My breath is your breath. My life is your life."
Which is beautifully poetic on a narrative level, right?
Wow, totally.
But what's fascinating here is the psychological reality of what happens next, because it's just brutal pragmatism. In the lore of this world, when a priest passes, the holy mandate transfers to the next in line.
Just immediately.
Instantly. There's no ceremony. The universe simply forces the burden onto whoever is left.
Wow.
So Doru, a 20-year-old kid who has literally spent the last week starving as a monster, he instantly inherits his dead father's glowing holy symbol. He becomes the town priest about 60 seconds after he stops being a vampire.
It's like patching a hole in a sinking lifeboat by tearing a plank off the hull.
That is exactly what it is.
You solve the immediate crisis. Sure, the vampire is cured, but the water is still rising. They didn't really achieve a win. They just executed a massive trauma transfer.
Yeah, and Heliax even looks at this sobbing, newly minted priest and tells him, "You've inherited a problem of your father's."
Oh, right, because upstairs...
There's another villager,
Yeah.
Eric.
who was recently bitten and is actively turning into a monster himself.
Exactly. And that is the defining burden of leadership right there. There's absolutely no time to process grief.
None.
Doru can't even mourn his father because Eric, this newly infected villager, starts calling Doru father, looking to him for spiritual guidance.
Oh, that's so heavy.
It is. Doru has to step into that role instantly, all while knowing they still have to go collect his actual father's corpse from the floor. The game just forces this immense unearned responsibility onto a traumatized kid.
And it prompts this incredible observation from another player, Fiad. She watches this grim succession happen and says, "There's no way to talk with someone who is a healer. Do you know that yourself? I have to defend you all the time."
Yeah, that line is amazing.
It's such a poignant commentary on the thankless, relentless isolation of being the one who's expected to fix everything.
It really highlights a core leadership dilemma. A miracle happened in that cellar, but it completely failed to solve the town's structural problem.
Right. Healing a soul is an abstract victory, but the sun is still going down outside.
Exactly. That spiritual triage has to immediately pivot to a physical, logistical nightmare because the nightly siege is still coming.
You can't just pray away a siege, you have to build a wall.
Right.
Which brings the party out of the church and into the mundane reality of town defense. They head to the local armorer, Bildroth's shop, to prep.
Where we get some light metagame mechanics.
Yeah, Cassius upgrades his armor, and Gesh, who is a kobold, basically a small reptilian creature, he levels up and inexplicably starts glowing.
As you do in D&D.
Exactly. But what really caught my eye during this town preparation isn't the weapons, it's this chilling piece of world building they encounter on the street.
So, the old woman on the stoop.
Yes, the old woman. She stops the party, and she isn't begging for money or salvation. She just flatly asks if they brought any pies.
It's so unsettling.
It really is. She lists them off, blueberry, raspberry, blackberry, and then with absolutely zero change in inflection, she says poisonberry.
Yeah.
She explains that a traveling woman brings these pies before the moon turns, and the children in the town literally cannot sleep or eat without them. Nobody will explain what's in the pies, but everybody relies on them.
It is a brilliant stroke of atmospheric horror because it shows how deeply compromised the baseline of normal has become for these people. When a community is under prolonged, intense trauma, they will normalize absolute poison if it provides a momentary illusion of routine or comfort.
And speaking of routine, Bildroth the armorer gives them a crucial piece of tactical information. He notes that the overlord of this realm, a vampire named Strahd, hasn't actively bothered the town for 50 years.
Right, half a century of quiet.
But these new attacks, they are happening at the exact same hour, every single night. You could set a watch by them.
Yeah.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. At first glance, I thought giving your enemy a predictable schedule was a massive tactical error. Why let the town prepare? But looking closer at the notes, that's not a bug, it's a feature, isn't it?
Oh, completely. And it delves deep into the psychology of terror. A random, unpredictable attack is just a feral feeding frenzy. It's chaotic.
Right.
But a scheduled attack is a deliberate, calculated siege.
Because it's designed to exhaust their hope.
Exactly. If you know exactly when the monsters are coming, you have the entire day to just sit in the mud and dread it.
Ugh, just waiting for it.
Right. It proves to the defenders that the enemy has infinite time, endless resources, and absolute control over the tempo of your suffering. It's not just a physical assault. It is pure psychological warfare designed to make the leaders crack before the walls do.
And that psychological strain, it violently collides with reality at sunset. The blue-tipped raven flies over, which is the signal, and the attack begins.
And this isn't just the usual wave.
No, the notes describe the usual wave of zombies, but then the enemy escalates. The mindless zombies are replaced by ghouls, faster-thinking creatures that actively eat flesh, and this horrifying, life-draining smoke monster that rots the grass as it moves.
Which is terrifying, but the real tragedy of this combat isn't the monsters at all.
No, it's what happens to Parriwimple.
Yeah. Parriwimple is Bildroth's nephew. He's this enormous, sweet, somewhat dim-witted kid who has been providing tragic comic relief all session.
He calls Gesh, the glowing kobold, a baby dragon.
Yes. He represents pure, unfiltered innocence in a town that is just rotting from the inside.
And during the fight, Bildroth is screaming at Parriwimple to stay behind the barricades, but Parriwimple disobeys to protect his baby dragon.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
He throws himself into the fray, fights with a homemade spear, and eventually the smoke monster takes him down. And while Heliax is desperately trying to reach him, a ghoul gets to Parriwimple first. It is a horrific, chaotic failure of their defenses.
It really is. The physical barricades technically hold, right? The monsters are eventually defeated.
Yeah.
But The emotional foundation of the town is shattered. Bildrath is left sitting in the mud with the remains of his nephew completely broken.
And in this moment of just gut-wrenching guilt, Heliax offers Bildrath 10 silver coins toward a resurrection scroll, a magical item to bring the boy back.
Oh, man.
The notes point out it's either the kindest or the most incredibly tone-deaf thing anyone says all night. And to add this dark, almost cynical meta layer to the tragedy, the game system itself mocks them.
You're talking about the experience points.
Right. In these games, you are rewarded with power, experience points, or XP for overcoming obstacles. At the end of this brutal fight, the game master technically levels Heliax up, making him stronger, specifically because a warding spell he cast earlier was placed on Gesh the kobold, not Parriwimple.
Wow.
The system technically rewarded Heliax for a clerical error that cost an innocent boy his life. He gets a promotion from the universe based on a technicality of tragedy.
It perfectly underscores the hollow nature of their victory. They survived, sure, but they failed the people relying on them.
Completely.
And right at this moment, when the party is standing in the mud, covered in blood, operating at their absolute lowest psychological point, the true architect of this misery introduces himself.
Yes. A lone rider walks his horse through the battered town gate. He introduces himself as Rahadin, the envoy for Strahd.
And he's so calm about it.
He is polite, precise, and visibly bored by the carnage. He issues a simple ultimatum to the party. Hand over a local woman named Ireena, and the nightly attacks stop forever.
But more importantly, he reveals the terrifying mechanism behind the escalation. He explains why the town is suddenly on its siege after 50 years of silence.
This part blew my mind.
It all loops back to that very first scene, that miracle in the cellar where Heliax cured the vampire.
Yeah.
When he brought the light of his goddess into the dark, the Overlord noticed. A foreign god touched his realm, and it painted a massive target on the party's back.
So that beautiful, selfless act of healing had a catastrophic bill attached to it. It directly caused the siege.
Every action has a reaction. But Rahadin isn't just there to deliver a villainous monologue. He is there to dismantle the leadership structure of this party. See, Heliax has been searching for his lost family for years. He carries portraits of his wife and son. In a moment of sheer desperation, Heliax shows the portrait of his son to Rahadin.
And this is where the negotiation tactics become truly horrifying. Rahadin looks at the portrait and casually says, "Turok." He looks so small. I haven't seen him that small in a very long time.
Oh, it's so sinister.
He knows the boy. He knows exactly where he is. And without missing a beat, Rahadin offers a hyper-personalized trade. Bring Ireena to my master, and I will personally walk you to your son.
And it almost works.
Fiad, another player, actually has to physically grab Heliax's robe to stop him from stepping forward to accept.
This raises an important question, right? Because this is a masterclass in hostile negotiation. Rahadin alters the entire group's baseline.
How so?
Well, he doesn't use physical force. He uses their own deepest desires and past traumas against them. He takes Heliax's greatest asset, which is his unwavering devotion to his missing family, and instantly weaponizes it into his greatest vulnerability.
Wow, yeah.
He isolates Heliax from the group's collective goal by offering a personalized incentive that completely contradicts the town's survival.
We've all faced ethical dilemmas, but this is a personalized, weaponized trolley problem. I mean, do you trade the life of an innocent woman to save an entire town to aid your own child?
It's impossible.
How does a leader even make a choice when the enemy holds all the cards, And they're actively rewriting the rules of the negotiation in real time?
You really can't.
And just to twist the knife, Rahadin casually drops a racial insult at Fiad, calling her a half-breed on his way out, and giving them until tomorrow at sunset to decide.
So the clock is ticking, and the psychological warfare has successfully shifted from the town gates right into the minds of the party.
So they rush up the hill to the burgomaster's house. He is the town mayor, essentially, who is also the father of Ireena and her brother Ismark.
Right.
The party needs to confer with the local leadership about this impossible ultimatum. But when they arrive, they discover that the safety of the house was a complete illusion.
Yeah, the house is surrounded by a ring of trampled grass, like a moat of flattened earth.
Which is such a creepy detail.
Very. Something has been pacing around the building, looking in the windows, and inside, the burgomaster is dead. And not just dead, he has been violently torn apart.
It's brutal. Heliax is literally gathering the remains off the floor, asking another player to use a mending spell just to make the body whole enough for an open casket. They find Ireena unconscious in the next room, missing 3 hours of memory. And when they examine her, they find 2 puncture wounds behind her ear.
But the terrifying detail
Is that the skin around the bite is raw.
Right.
Something has been very carefully, repeatedly biting that exact same spot. The monster hasn't just been at the gates, it's been tapping at her bedroom window.
And this revelation triggers the total internal collapse of the town's leadership. Ismark, who has been acting as the leader of the town defenses, just breaks down. He admits that he actually knew about Rahadin's trade offer for Ireena.
He knew.
He's known for 6 days. Rahadin had visited the house 3 times before the party even arrived in town, and Ismark and his father decided to keep it a secret from Ireena.
First it was zombies at the gates, then it was a diplomat in the streets, and finally it was the monster tapping at the bedroom window. But Ismark's secret, that internal betrayal of trust, feels almost more destructive than any of the physical attacks.
Absolutely.
Ismark makes the classic mistake of insecure leadership. He confuses secrecy with security.
Precisely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, leadership isn't just fighting monsters, it's managing the decay of trust.
Yeah.
By hiding the truth from his sister, in a misguided attempt to protect her, he strips her of her agency. He treats her like an object to be hidden rather than a stakeholder in her own survival.
Right.
And in doing so, he makes her infinitely more vulnerable. When trust decays, the structure falls apart faster than any wall.
And Ireena's reaction is the natural blowback of that lost agency. She wakes up, completely livid at the betrayal, and immediately volunteers to be the sacrifice.
Yeah, she's done.
She looks at the party and says, "My life for this town." And his son, "It's a no-brainer. Take me tomorrow."
Yeah.
She's ready to walk out the door and end it.
And this is where Fiad steps in. Fiad, who took the insult at the gate, who has been watching this town tear itself apart. She talks Ireena down, but she doesn't do it with empathy or emotional appeals. She uses pure chilling strategy.
The notes call it the leash theory.
Yes.
Fiad applies ice-cold game theory to a highly emotional crisis. She points out that Ireena might not just be a tragic victim. If this ancient vampire overlord wants her so badly that he's orchestrating a 50-year anomaly just to get her, she is the leash keeping him in check.
Exactly.
If she turns herself in, she removes the only leverage the town has. Without her as a prize to be won, Strahd might just wipe Barovia off the map entirely out of boredom.
It is a phenomenal contrast to Ismark's panic. Fiad steps up as a true stakeholder. She looks at the board objectively when everyone else is blinded by grief.
Yeah.
She recontextualizes Ireena from a burden to be protected into a structural, load-bearing asset. It's the ultimate example of true leadership in a crisis.
So, armed with this cold logic, they need a new plan. During this argument, Ireena notices that Fiad shares physical traits with the Vistani. There are traveling people who are the only ones allowed to safely pass through the deadly mists surrounding this land.
Right.
Ireena pulls out an old book referencing a Vistani seer named Madame Eva, who is said to possess true foresight.
And Heliax, still reeling from the manipulation regarding his son, realizes this seer might be a third option.
Right. A way out.
A way to find his missing family without having to make a corrupt deal with a vampire lord.
So a new deadline is forged. They have to bury the dead burgomaster and sweet Parriwimple at midnight, get a few hours of sleep, find Madame Eva, and get back to the town before Rahadin's clock runs out at sunset tomorrow.
Oh, pressure.
Right. The session ends with them wrapping the bodies in blankets, opening the door, and hearing howling in the dark.
The burden of leadership has been permanently welded to them. They can't walk away now.
So what does this all mean? You started this deep dive looking at a story about some passing adventurers, but by the end you see the agonizing reality of stepping into a vacuum of power.
Yeah.
These players are now holding the fragile lives of an entire town in their hands. They are responsible for a traumatized 20-year-old priest, a broken armorer mourning a boy they failed to protect, and a doomed woman who might be the only leash keeping an ancient evil in check.
They've learned that every intervention has a cost, and that managing the decay of trust is far harder than fighting monsters.
Absolutely. Now, as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with one final, deeply provocative image to mull over, and it's derived entirely from a passing detail in these source notes.
Oh, this is a good one.
Remember the new plan. The party has to go to the church graveyard at midnight to bury the bodies. Well, earlier in the notes, Ireena casually mentions a phenomenon that happens in that specific graveyard. Sometimes, at the stroke of midnight, the dead rise from their graves.
But they don't attack.
Right, they don't attack, they simply march, they form a silent procession and march through the grounds, completely and utterly ignoring the living.
It's just an autonomous routine that happens in the background of this cursed place.
It's such a haunting concept. Think about the implications of that for a moment. If the dead in Barovia have their own autonomous routines, their own mysterious marches that don't even acknowledge the living, breathing people standing right next to them, whose world is this, really? Are the living just ghosts haunting a land that already belongs to the dead?
It's a terrifying thought.
Think about that sinking lifeboat we talked about at the beginning. Maybe they aren't patching a lifeboat at all. Maybe they are already at the bottom of the ocean, just fighting over who gets to hold their breath the longest. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll leave you to mull over that haunting thought until next time.